Happy Saturday, everyone. Josh's severe weather. I hope you all are excited for the weekend. And I am going to primarily discuss the next really big storm next week that's going to impact the country from coast to coast. And the storm track next week, unfortunately, looks a lot familiar to many of us here that are just cleaning up from the weather we've had out in California, just some relentless amounts of rain through the atmospheric river in the south, cleaning up from tornadoes, some of which were strong. Unfortunately, the pattern is not set to break just yet. So, this kind of taste of early spring is again going to be upon us. Here in Raleigh, I think there have been a few snowflakes falling. I don't know. I didn't really look out the window because nothing's sticking. But it is colder to start the weekend. It's going to warm right back up next week across the eastern seaboard. And we are talking next week about yet another two-part system that will produce severe weather down south and winter weather up in the north. I'm going to get to that. Out ahead of that storm, by the way, there'll be another one. It'll be weaker early in the week. So we're actually talking about two storms next week and a third storm next weekend down south as well. So we just don't get a break here. We get maybe a couple of days to catch our breath before things get ramped up once again. So I'm going to share my screen with you all, and I appreciate your time today. This will probably be about a 15-20 minute video trying to break down everything. It's a lot, but I'm going to do my very best for you. So our big storm will be moving into California next Monday. Some flooding rain across central California and heavy mountain snow once again. Nothing new here. And that will move out of California in the southwest by Tuesday night and Wednesday. As it moves into the southern plains in Texas, it picks up moisture from the Gulf. And we are likely to see thunderstorms developing with heavy snow back across the high plains here by Wednesday. And then that will track in a very similar location to the storm track we just dealt with here last Thursday into Friday. What I believe will happen is, once again, we're going to have severe weather across the south. The core of the severe weather may be shifted a little bit farther west than where this last outbreak was, but nonetheless, East Texas, southern Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, and possibly Georgia, as well as possibly Tennessee, will see likely at least one round of severe weather out of this. Now, a little bit of detail still to talk about, some timing differences in the storm track. That is something that we will have to continue to pin down for you as meteorologists. But looking like we will see yet again some tornadoes. And I hate to say it, but a few of those could be strong. The Storm Prediction Center started to add an outlook here for Wednesday into Thursday for severe weather. Their certainty level is not super high due to the fact that there is some limited moisture to work with returning ahead of it. However, I will tell you guys, we just saw this last week where the threat for tornadoes did not look to be like it was going to be as high as it actually was. We had an overachieving storm, and that was due to the fact that despite the fact that the moisture level wasn't super high out ahead of that storm, it was enough with the strong jet stream dynamics to produce enough storm activity where we did see rotating storms and tornadoes. And I think looking at the jet stream again this week, and I'm going to show you guys that in a little bit, we're going to be in the same spot. Maybe geographically it shifts a little farther west and gets started a little bit sooner, but nonetheless, I think we are going to be talking about yet another January tornado outbreak. And if you watched my video at the start of the year, that this would be the year of the tornado, I obviously was talking a lot more towards March through May, but nonetheless, we are seeing it now. And that is obviously a sign of things to come, kind of a harbinger of things to come as we head into the spring. So January could rival 1999 as one of the most destructive tornado months of the month of January on record. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. January 1999 had one massive outbreak across Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Little Rock got hit by an EF3. Does that happen again this time? I don't know, but something I'm watching for you guys. There is a cold part of the storm again. We are still seeing enough cold air in place for on the north side of the track for some snow. So maybe around Denver up to Omaha, Des Moines, maybe Chicago, but probably more likely Milwaukee, northern lower Michigan. Going to see a few inches of snow out of this. It looks like possibly the Twin Cities again, who've had a lot of snow so far this winter. In the Northeast, we could see kind of a wintry mix, maybe ice and snow going to rain in Pennsylvania and interior New Jersey. But this could produce heavy snow. It'd be cold enough for heavy snow in upstate New York and especially into New England, especially when you get away from the coast. In Boston and Maine, we'll have to take a look at that more closely. Storm tracks right now, 6 days out, can differ, so I don't want to give you guys totals because I know they're gonna change as time wears on. The current watch warning advisory display from the National Weather Service. We do have a winter storm watch, or I think a winter weather advisory in effect for coastal New England, with the coastal storm coming up here and kind of backing in on Sunday and Monday. We'll see a few inches of snow out of this departing storm. Still some snow falling in the Smokies. Winter storm warning in effect through this morning. Probably some places getting over a foot of snow when you get above 6,000 feet. And that's nice to see. It's been kind of a snow drought for us here in the southeast. But the big city's not getting anything. Out west, another winter storm warning for the Sierra Nevada, winter storm warning for the Wasatch, for the mountain ranges of Arizona and also eastern Nevada, and flash flood watches again for the Central Valley and northern parts of California, with more rain set to come. This is a review of our severe weather. 55 tornado reports, some confirmed EF3 and EF4 tornadoes, in particular, the ones that track through central Alabama, the ones that caused deaths in Autauga County and a lot of destruction around Selma. That is off to the west and southwest of Montgomery. We had also EF3 tornadoes touch down across Georgia, especially between Columbus and Atlanta, and also confirmed tornadoes in Gaston County, North Carolina, and in Lawrence County, South Carolina, and even across parts of East Tennessee, we did see some lower end tornadoes, and Kentucky. So this was a very active outbreak that we had. I think the next one, we'll see the core of the severe weather report shift west by about 300 miles, but some of these areas are again going to be under the gun, and I'm going to talk about that here soon. For Saturday, there is a chance for some thunderstorms across California, especially the northern 2/3. Tomorrow, that shifts eastward, and with our next storm, we could see some thunderstorms heading into Monday across the Missouri Valley. Next storm batters northern California by Monday morning, and the threat for some thunderstorms with heavy rain and strong winds across portions of central and northern California. Here's our departing storm. The first storm is actually tracking farther north and east, so the Gulf Coast kind of escapes this one for Monday. However, as we go off into the distance here, looking at day 5, this is Wednesday and Wednesday night. The Storm Prediction Center now has highlighted a 15% chance of severe weather over East Texas, much of Louisiana into Mississippi. They do not yet have a threat farther north and east yet for Thursday, but I do think that's something they probably need to consider introducing. I know in their discussion they're talking about that, but the uncertainty level right now is a little bit too high for them. But I'm one of those people, I'd rather kind of go out on a little bit of a limb and tell you what could happen so you're prepared. And I think this is going to be trending this direction. Thursday, we see it farther east. I did want to show you guys, this is kind of a neat website I look at. It is it's Cooperative Institute for Precipitation Systems out of St. Louis University, SLU here in Missouri. And it goes through analogs of severe weather that kind of pick out the percentage of the likelihood of seeing severe weather based on analogs and what we're seeing. And this is for Wednesday into Wednesday night. You can see a decent chance of severe weather here over Arklatex and Oklahoma into Mississippi later at night. This is all modes of severe weather. For wind, the threat for some severe wind over the Arklatex and Oklahoma, pretty much, which is a common thing to see with storms this time of the year. We do see severe wind. Hail also going to be a threat a little bit farther west, including the Dallas-Fort Worth area, maybe to Norman, Oklahoma. And the risk for tornadoes looks like it's not as high in Texas, although I am concerned about that if this shifts west. But Arkansas, Wednesday night, in Mississippi and northern Louisiana, even southwest Tennessee, there are analogs that show us there will be the chance for possibly a few tornadoes. As we head into the distance for the next day, for Thursday, and this is an older model run. Unfortunately, they're missing some data. We see the shift eastward, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Middle Tennessee, maybe Kentucky, and Western Georgia, and not to forget the Florida Panhandle. But the central Gulf Coast states and Dixie Alley will be potentially under the gun Thursday, especially in the morning back here and in the afternoon across Alabama and Georgia. So it's like 1 week in advance of the last outbreak. We are again dealing with severe weather, unfortunately. The wind threat is 15% or higher for severe wind across southern Mississippi, central and southern Alabama. So those of you that are doing storm cleanup here in Alabama and Georgia need to very much be vigilant and alert with all the debris that's on the ground from the last track of tornadoes. We are once again going to be potentially hit again on Thursday with severe weather, including severe winds. The threat for hail not super high, but it does exist across northeast Alabama and towards Atlanta. But here's the tornado risk. And you can see the model guidance right now highlights Mississippi and southwest Alabama for tornadoes, as well as Louisiana. So the severe wind area is actually farther and east. What it thinks will happen is we see more supercells in the morning and midday hours farther south and west, and then more of a line of straight line winds farther to the north and east. However, with it being 5-6 days out, we very much could see that shift east or north or northwest. So don't be too fixated on the guidance. It's just showing us what it thinks would likely happen. I'm going to show you guys from weatherbell.com the European upper air chart, 500 millibar chart. You see the strong trough that's moving through North Carolina will be heading out to sea here rather than up the coast, and a ridge reestablishes itself. This will be sticking around though this weekend and affecting coastal New England. You can see still a bit of a trough here. So it does warm aloft. So this storm that's impacting New England is going to eventually turn over to a milder rain. But this is pretty much out of the way, and it warms right back up Sunday and Monday. Here's our next storm on the European. You can kind of see it now moving into Oregon and California this weekend. That is going to lift across the northern plains. A ridge will reestablish itself. And so if there's any severe weather Monday where these lines are meeting, the cooler colors and the warmer colors are meeting, that's where your strongest winds aloft are. I think it's going to be farther north, maybe Missouri and southern Illinois. But that's a weakening storm. You can kind of see the colors start fading a little bit here. Tuesday and Wednesday, though, a mild look across the east. No surprise. It's been a very mild January so far. But here's our next storm in the west, and this one concerns me more once again. We've got a low pressure cutting off over the Four Corners region Tuesday night, and that will advance into the plains. And we have a classic look here, seeing a strong trough over the southern plains and a strong ridge over the Ohio Valley and southeast. Where the two meet is our area of concern for strong winds aloft and the threat for severe weather. So even though thermodynamics aren't great, the dynamics are, and I'm going to show you guys the jet stream so you can see where all the wind is coming from that produces these storms. But nonetheless, this is not a cold look for the east until we get into New England here on Friday, and we've got a strong upper level system. The last upper level low came down this way into the Carolinas. This one is going up into New England. So if you like snow in the Northeast, this is going to be a better chance for you, in my opinion, with the exception of the immediate coastline, the big cities again. So Boston, New York, Philadelphia. I don't think snow is going to be as big a deal because the influence of the Atlantic Ocean is going to be a little bit too strong here, too much mild air in place. But not to say you can't see a little snow on the front end of this storm, but it looks like it'll turn milder. And by the way, there's a third system to watch moving into the southwest here on Friday and then across the southern United States Saturday and Sunday. This does not have the look of a big severe weather maker, though. What it will do is introduce some cooler weather in for next weekend, and looks like an unsettled time again on the Gulf Coast with more rain coming. The surface map, this is the European ensemble. We see high pressure centered over the eastern U.S. early next week. First storm tracks right over Omaha and up into Wisconsin, so it'll be mild here south and east of it. That will pretty much fade eastward here and just kind of shear out. Next storm here we're watching moves into California on Monday and then into Texas here on Wednesday. And that low pressure track is a lot more southern than the one I just showed you on Monday. So we shift from Omaha to Paducah, Kentucky here on Wednesday night, and then right across Ohio on Thursday, and western New York Thursday night, with a secondary low forming over Long Island and affecting southern and eastern New England. This is a classic setup for some heavy interior snow over the Northeast. And oh, by the way, there's yet another storm that's going to develop here over the Gulf Coast states. Looks like over next weekend, maybe some cooler and heavier rain over places like Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lafayette, and Pensacola, and maybe severe weather, but at this point, a little bit too soon to make that call. We're still talking a week more in advance. Here is the European ensemble 500 millibar chart. You see the strong trough down here, that is leaving. Here's the next piece of energy, the next atmospheric river heading into Southern California on Sunday. And that will advance northeastward across the central plains and into the Ohio Valley on Monday and Tuesday. There's another piece right behind it, and that one's going to intensify. You see this kind of one system, it's a kind of a flat looking wave. That advances eastward on Tuesday. All the cold air is locked up here across the northern Rockies. But as we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday, we see a pretty active subtropical jet stream. And remember, I talked about the milder air that's in place here in the southeast. This is as this upper low strengthens, upper level winds strengthen. So Wednesday night, we see 75 to 80 knot winds at 500 millibars, which will be enough dynamics to produce some more intense thunderstorms Wednesday afternoon and especially evening. And if you look at where the core of the strongest winds aloft are, you typically see the severe weather just to the east and south of that, in the exit region of the jet stream, or the right front entrance and then the left exit. So kind of in this area for Wednesday night, we see the strong winds and they continue to intensify. And Thursday, we see 90 knot wind jet streak here right over Dixie Alley. So off to the south of this, we are in a good spot to see severe weather. Even if the thermodynamics, the amount of heat, the amount of moisture isn't super high, the dynamics, that's the wind, that's the shear, that is the ingredients to get storms to rotate. That is high, and this looks very much like what we saw last Thursday. It may be in a slightly different spot, and the storm track may be slightly different, but the song remains the same here for the threat for severe weather. The difference with this upper low is that it's lifting northeast rather than dropping southeast. So I think by the time we get into Thursday night, the Carolinas and southeast and Florida will not see the kind of severe weather that we were threatened with here last Thursday night. That will exit and then kind of drop eastward. There's another trough here. They're not going to phase, but the upper low here is certainly going to be in a better spot for New England to see a good amount of snow on Friday. And I'm going to talk about potential with that as well. As we get to next weekend, we see another active part of our southern jet stream. So we'll have to watch the central Gulf Coast next weekend. But this does not, at this point, look like it's going to be as intense at this point. The European operational, you can see the threat for where thunderstorms will be. There'll be some across Illinois. Let me look at central with you guys here. There'll be some thunderstorms developing on Monday, even in Iowa, across central and southern Iowa, northern Missouri, and then stretching eastward. And we could see some isolated severe weather, maybe strong winds and hail out of this Monday night. This is midnight Monday night and into Tuesday, but it fades. The next storm will actually have potentially some thunderstorms in the southwest on Tuesday night onto the plains. And Wednesday, we start to see the potential for a lot of lightning and a lot of thunderstorms over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas and Mississippi. And as that lifts eastward, we're likely to see severe weather in here Wednesday night. That could include Houston, but probably more likely Alexandria, Lake Charles, southeastern Arkansas. We get into Mississippi, the areas that commonly see severe weather this time of the year, and even farther east as we look at Thursday. The threat for more storms and potentially severe weather in this region. It looks like kind of Wednesday night is highlighted as the most active time frame. Thursday is a little bit more up in the air, a little bit more uncertain, but nonetheless, this model can change and we could see severe weather in this region once again on Thursday. That's what we'll be watching. This is Thursday afternoon and into the evening. Georgia looks like it gets hit hard. Eastern Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky get hit hard. And then as we get into the nighttime, maybe some thunderstorms advancing into Virginia and Maryland, as well as the Carolinas. And there could still be some severe weather, but at this point, I think we're kind of losing the thermodynamics, the amount of moisture, the amount of instability to produce widespread severe weather. And that's out of here by Friday. Here is the European ensemble snow forecast. The West gets battered once again with heavy snow. California, even the Cascades, and the Southwest. As we head into Thursday here, you can see this. The first storm will produce some snow over the Great Lakes region, the upper Great Lakes. The second storm is going to be farther south and could include Chicago and Kansas City in on that potential for snow, maybe a few inches. As we go farther east, we see some heavy amounts of snow across parts of Maine here and New Hampshire. I'm going to zoom into New England so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This is a 5-day snow. Let me show you guys 1 day or 2-day snow so you can see that. And you can see this snow will be, the first storm, we'll see a little bit of snow Tuesday into Wednesday. That lifts out. Here's the next one, Thursday night into Friday. And it's getting close to New York City, and it's potentially snowing in Boston. But the better amounts are going to be farther north, where we could see 2-day snow totals at least of 6 inches. If I show you guys the operational, you'll see again, what I showed you a minute ago was just the average of all of the potential solutions. This is the operational model. This is, okay, let's pick the most likely solution. And you can see Boston will finally have the threat, if this model holds, for some accumulating snow, maybe even 4 to 5 inches, higher amounts across the New Hampshire border, and the potential for a foot of snow with a pretty favorable storm track for coastal Maine and eastern New Hampshire. And in Pennsylvania, I know some of y'all are watching me here. Nittany Lions, let's go state. We could see a little bit of snow here in central Pennsylvania as well, a few inches possible in Center County and eastward towards the Poconos, and then eventually up to New York. And that would happen Thursday afternoon and evening into Friday before maybe a change to some rain. All right, rain. Speaking of that, the ensembles are looking extremely wet here in the Tennessee Valley with flash flooding going to be a possibility here, 2 to 4 inches of rain. The West continues to get battered. Heavy rain as well across Arizona, a couple inches of rain possible. Southern Cal could see a few inches. This is an average of all the models. The Northwest will get active as well. Didn't want to leave you guys out here in the Pac Northwest, but we see the storm track that's been battering California is going to shift up the coast for the second part of next week. Once we get rid of the first two storms, the jet starts pushing northward as a ridge starts building here off the California coast. And the operational European shows the potential for quite a bit of rain falling here. Looks like it'll be, let me zoom in for you guys so you can see, or not zoom in, but narrow down the times for you. You can see that big push of rain comes on Wednesday into Thursday across western Washington, northwestern Oregon, and British Columbia. So that's what I'll be watching for you guys. That's rain. And let's look at snow because that's also going to be a big factor in the mountains. Whoops. Sorry about that. 2-day snowfall totals. And we can see this will be a big snowfall over the Cascades, potential for 1 to 2 feet of snow. And across the coastal range here, British Columbia, maybe 2 to 3 feet of snow. The reason for all this crazy severe weather, and I talked about it, we are starting to see some warming here off of the coastline of Ecuador. This is the El Nino region 1 and 2, 1.2. This is 3.4. It's still clearly a La Nina, which are the colder colors. La Nina is below the average. El Nino is above average. We see some transitioning going on here near the coastline. So this is a trans Nino is what I call it. It is when we start to transition, and all of our forecasts are showing that the La Nina will fade here in the next 2 to 3 months. When we see a transition like that, where there's warming in one spot before another spot, we see a more active jet stream. And that's why California is getting pounded right now with heavy rain. That's why we're seeing tornadoes already starting to form here in the deep south. February could be a transition month, but it looks like March could be a very active severe weather month. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say we're going to have a record March for tornadoes, but we may be in the top 10. And the same goes for April. So if you're in the plains and the southeast, you need to very much be prepared for an active season. That is my warning to everyone at this point, because I do think that's going to happen. I'll show you guys the indices. This is the, we're still in a La Nina, -1 degree. That is Celsius below average for the 3.4 region. That's the largest part of the Pacific. This is the 3.4 region. But now I'll show you guys the 1 and 2 region, which was very cold with respect to average in November and even December, is now inched up close to getting closer to the average for this time of the year. So in the last 2 weeks, we've seen a shift from a La Nina in the far eastern Pacific to a more neutral, and that could go positive here in the next couple of weeks. So we are seeing a very volatile pattern that we're in, where things are shifting very quickly. And that is going to mean severe weather. That's going to mean extremes. That's going to mean warmth across the southeast, cold across the northern Rockies, maybe some shifting as well. That's going to have more of a factor on our weather than if it were a neutral state across the entire Pacific, and we would look at more what's going on in the Arctic. All right, that's a lot, folks, but I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you for watching. I'm going to have probably take a break tomorrow and then talk about Monday, that next storm and the severe weather outlook and what looks like it may change. But if you could subscribe, you don't want to miss that video. It's going to be important, and it's going to share with you guys what could save your life. So if you could please like this video, feel free to add any comments. And those of you who know me know that I am also one who wants to pray for you. I believe that my calling to do the weather is coming from a higher spot from God, and I'm a Christian man, and I believe that I am serving you all as a Christian man, and that is sharing the weather so that I can save lives, but sharing Christianity so that I can save souls. I want to share a quick passage with you before I let you go here. If you stuck around, I really appreciate that. If you didn't, I understand you're not listening anyway. But I know a lot of us are talking about how difficult the last few years are and how tired we are and how weary we've become in trying to do what we're doing to raise a family, to serve our employers. But I will read this passage from Galatians 6, 7 to 10, in which Paul talks to the church of Galatians. He says, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Whoever sows to please their flesh from the flesh will reap destruction. Whoever sows to please the Spirit from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers." And all God is, and all that's being said here through Paul to the church is to not mock God, to not please yourself, but to please God in everything you do. That's to serve the kingdom. That's to serve other people. That's to do good. That is not to divide, but to bring people together, especially those who belong to the family of believers. So he's already talking to Christian believers here and encouraging them. Because I know for me, it can get very difficult to do what I do every single day, to take a few losses, to have things that I did not have any control of just kind of consume me. And I know everybody else is in the same spot, whether it be health challenges or marital challenges or financial challenges, or a family member doing something that kind of sours the name of the family. Look, it's difficult, but all you can really do is please God. And that is, put what you do, put what you do, and keep your eyes on God and not on others, and not worry so much about what they think, but to concern yourself with what God thinks. Remember, God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for our sins. We're all sinners. I'm a sinner. I'm doing some crazy things on here sometimes, saying some crazy stuff. That could be sin. But at the same time, I truly believe that I'm doing good by sharing this word with you and sharing my beliefs. And I know at the proper time, I'm going to reap that harvest. I'm not giving up. I'm going to continue to grow as a Christian man and serve my family and serve God and serve humanity. And I want you all to feel the same way. I'm here to encourage you and not to beat you down. That's not my goal. But eternal life is there for us. Treasures are there in heaven. And what we do here on earth matters, but really it's just that one decision. That's to accept Christ, Jesus Christ, as your Savior, who will save your soul when it is time for you to pass on and save you and send you to heaven. And that is very powerful. So I really, really wanted to share that with you because it's been on my mind for a while. I wanted to get that load off of me and not please myself and my flesh, but to please the Holy Spirit, to please God and share what he wants others to hear. So I really appreciate y'all's time today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, get some rest, and we'll talk again early next week. I may update you guys with posts as well on the community page, so keep that handy if you could. Appreciate y'all's time. God bless you and take care.